Notice is hereby given of a regular meeting of the district's board of directors to be held at 105 Ford Road, Port Isabel, on March 8th, 2023, at the hour of 5:30 p.m. for consideration of the business of the agenda below. This notice is posted at the office of the district on March 2nd, 2023, at 4:50 p.m. in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, not less than 72 hours prior to the time of said meeting. Agenda item 1, call to order. We have a quorum. Myself, Mr. Starkey, Mr. Donahue. And the notice has been duly posted as required by law. Item 2, Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, Jesus Christ, please bless this day and let us have a good discussion on our water needs and resources. We're here and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ.
Amen. Invitation to the audience for public comments, item 3.
I have a comment that I wanted to bring up. The financial report that was presented last week, there was a correction that was required. The correction doesn't involve any changes to the overall assets, liabilities, fund balance, or revenues, or expenditures of the district, nor of the district as a whole. So the change only involved the correction to the classification of net position presented as net investment in capital assets. So this is a component of the total net position, and so there was a computation error, and that was the result of not adding back some of the unspent bond proceeds of the year debt issuance. So since those amounts are not invested in capital assets, so the revised report now has the net investment in capital assets of $58,062,795. The unrestricted net position is $8,993,598. So I have this memo. I distributed copies of it, and I distributed copies of the revised report. Just wanted to make you aware of that.
Who found it?
It was between us and the auditor. We'll say
Somebody found it. Good.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
With us.
I have one more.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the board, we've been monitoring the pressures at the harbor island at the golf course, with pressures being like 48 psi in the mornings, 49 in the midday, and then in the afternoons like 48. It's been on the high side at 48. I'm thinking that one of the that's a 3-story building. And the possibility that if they have a shower on the 2nd or 3rd floor up, the pressures might decline a little bit, because it's just the height that the pressure's got the 48 psi carries up is less at those higher levels, the higher it goes. So that's why we maintain our water towers really high to get that pressure higher. So 48, 49, maybe around the 50 psi. Is fairly average. So just for your information. Thank you.
Yes. I'd ask for that. Thanks for following up on it.
Okay.
Do that. Neighbor of mine on the golf course. Here's this. And if he needs follow up directly, follow up. Okay. Anybody else for public comment? Item 4, consider and discuss for possible approval the minutes for the workshop meeting and the regular meeting, February 22nd, 2022. Second. So moved by Mr. Starkey, second by Mr. Donahue. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Item 5, General Manager's report.
Just the reservoir level today is at 29.8. I'm sorry. Monday was 30.0% combined, and it's dropping more without any rain. I believe like California and all those states up there are having a lot of snow, but hoping that we get something down on the west side of Texas, like the West Texas, where the rain feeds our river, and we're hoping for that, that's all we can do. And, I'm just concerned about it. So we got the information coming up on desal.
Great, thank you. Yeah, that's the lowest I've heard at this time of year.
Yeah, and then it hasn't gone above 50, that, I mean, we expect that to happen one day, but when?
What is our emergency levels again?
Uh,
25, 26?
at 25, and then you go down to 15. In between that area is conservation starts back again mandatorily, and then from 15 down, it'll be like really watching everything, keeping an eye, policing the whole areas and making sure that they comply. All the customers. But they've been pretty proactive about it because it does work when we send the message. They even call me, like, my neighbor has water leaking all the way to the street or this or that, and we go to take care of that issue, talk to the customers. So, and again, with the revenue, you can tell that it's dropping at a certain percent for that purpose.
Thank you, sir. Item 6, Director of Operations report.
Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the board, the report as far as service calls and callouts really did not change much for February comparing it to January. Big difference was 14 service calls callouts between January and February. It did go up, but like I said, it wasn't much of a difference. Most of it was in customer service in the distribution area. It had some spikes up and down in different categories and different projects or service orders that they had. So as far as collections, collections are pretty much the same. Collections, the difference was 9 between February and January. It was an increase from January by 9 callouts, service orders. And again, they vary in the spikes. The biggest difference was in the preventive maintenance, where it went up by 14, but the sewer backup went down. So it really didn't make much of a difference. In the pre-treatment, that also remained pretty much the same. They went from 38 service calls that they had to 32, so it really didn't change much. The big difference there was in the removal of fog. It went down from 11 to 7, and the maintenance, which went down by 2. So there wasn't much of a change there either. That's the end of the report. Do you have any questions?
All right. No questions. We'll go on to number 7, and discuss the response from the bond council on the referendum of the 27.6 million.
Yes, sir. I apologize to the board on the response here for what you all tasked of us the last time. This really fact-finding mission did take quite a bit. As a matter of fact, I was still making changes this afternoon on the report, and I know that you'd like to have it before the board meeting so you can look at it. But I would like to go through it real quick. We did contact the bond council, and there is some attachment there on the emails that we went back and forth, and bond council did inform us that we could use the 2021 bond money for desalination. And the only other thing that was required from TCEQ is that if there was any mention on the application that was originally submitted of alternative use of water or desalination, then we could go forward with it. We don't have to do anything. And talking to Charles this morning, Charles had been out because he had been sick, and this morning we got together and had a little powwow, and Charles did say that there was some mention, and he showed us on the part of the application where there was mention of alternative use of water. So we're okay as far as that's concerned. And having done that and looked at all that, I did some pros and cons, and one of the cons was the fact that the engineering design for the microfiltration is 100% complete and is ready to be advertised for construction. The reason that's listed as a con is because of the money that we were looking for desal. But the thing is that we found out and talking to other engineers as well, and talking this meeting with Charles this morning, is that a microfiltration is needed as a pre-treatment to the RO system. And so, as I mentioned on here, we currently have 20 million, but that will be used on the micro. We are requesting from TCEQ a feasibility approval, the study that we've done in the past for South Padre, and one that was done at Port of Brownsville. So possibly we won't have to get a feasibility study. The con here is that we do need to do a pilot study for desalination. And the other is that the Corps of Engineers won't have any information for us until August. They're doing a study as to where would be more feasible as far as the spots that we had picked for desalination or for an intake. So we won't find anything till August. So that kind of draws it back as far as the desal. In the meantime, though, we are looking at doing a desal, and it is part. I know last time the big topic was not having two plants, desalination and microfiltration, but as it stands, the microfiltration and the desalination, they will be like two separate buildings, the way we're looking at it right now, but it is one plant because the microfiltration is needed for the RO. And so,
so it has to go through, get the seawater, it has to be desalinated, and then it has to be microfiltered?
The opposite, microfiltered and then desalinated.
Has to go through that.
Yeah, and so this changed quite a bit from yesterday.
But if 7Cs, for example, were to come in, that's part of what they do, correct? They microfilter it and then desalinate. They wouldn't come in and be like, okay, boys, you got to build a microfiltration plant and we'll do the desalination.
No, it's all part of the plant.
It's all part of what they
Part
do,
of-
right?
Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
So we're
Sorry.
looking at also, we went to a Texas Water last week, and there was quite a bit of discussion as far as Senator Perry carrying a bill for Governor Abbott, Senate Bill 28, and it deals with $3.5 billion that is set aside for water infrastructure. Most of this money is going to go to desalination, but in the areas of brackish, reuse, and seawater. And what we were told was by several other people that we talked to is that the farther along you are in the desalination plant, then the more likely you're able to get some of this money. And some of this money will be grants. And so that's what we're kind of looking for. And talking this morning, the meeting that we had, we talked about doing the desal and preparing that, changing the tubings that Paul is going to provide, Paul Corporation and putting them in there for desal.
On the microfiltration.
On the microfiltration,
Correct.
right.
Preparing it for desalination. The grants that are coming up, that it'll be by June, but before we know who's gonna get what, are 50-50 grants. And we met with one of the desalination association members, one of the council members there, the chairman, vice chairman. Name is Bill Norris. He gave us information on it that seems very positive for us, and that he will be pushing to get a lot of that. And we did talk to Representative Janie Lopez, and then we advised them on desalination, the projects that we have available that we want to look into and move forward because of the reservoir levels are at the low levels, and we're at the last ones of the river, and we'll be having a hard time receiving that water from that river. So we're looking into seawater desalination. They call it marine water, but we kind of educated her on that part, and then we did talk to Senator Morgan Lamantia also, and the same thing. These representatives are not too knowledgeable about water, but they know that there is a crisis in Texas, so they will be pushing for getting approval of desalination funding more than anything else. And
Is Ms. Morgan our senator?
State senator,
Yes, she is.
Right. So, and saying all this, there was other members of the association that were pushing for the same thing with different senators and representatives. So what we'd like to do is get a workshop going, and since Bill Norris is the vice chairman of the Texas Desal Association, and he did 2 of our pilots. And well, actually, the third one was from Brownsville PUD ship channel, which was salt water also. They did part of that piloting too. They are very knowledgeable, and I would like to bring them in for a workshop. And I know that there's a lot of questions still unanswered, and funding that we really need. And that is only going to take a little time to get that approved, and hopefully they'll, since we will be the, oh, you want to go ahead and keep reading your information? The
Yeah.
first desal in Texas, and the
right.
third one in the United States, if we do move forward with it. So I know that a lot of clients, customers from the district had voted for that desalination years back, because it was at that time where the reservoir levels were low and we were in a crisis at that time, so they approved those bonds for that purpose. So if we get 50-50 matching grants for that, I believe we can move forward with building a 100% desalination within ourselves.
Yeah, some of the drawbacks on the desal, as far as it is right now, is that because of all that is required to do the preliminary testing and whatnot, it will take about a year and a half before we can start the desal part of the plant. But in the meantime, we will be working with the microfiltration. The other is that the desal part will probably take an additional $15 to $20 million. Once we've built the microfiltration, we still need to do the desal part. That's going to take an additional 15 to 20. At the very least, that push comes to shove, we do have the Proposition 2 that was approved back in 2012, that 15.6, that we could probably use as a match. We're hoping that bill comes through. And we can use part of this money that we're doing with the micro as a match. And if Bill Norris comes through and gets us what he thinks he's, or working towards is a $25 million match, that would tremendously help. So, like I said, it's going to be a while as far as the desal, but in the meantime, we are working with the microfiltration part of it. We're shifting gears. Not only we don't want to do just the microfiltration, but the microfiltration as a pre-treatment to desal. And so we will be talking to Paul Corporation about that and changing some of the tubing, so whatever needs to be done. We will be meeting with Bill as far as see what needs to be done as far as that's concerned.
See if we can schedule a workshop. If we can do it today or.
So, 7 Cs that was gonna come in. They paid for that. Did they pay to build that plant and then charge us for the water? Yes.
Yes, but that would cost roughly $430,000 a month, which equates to over $5 million a year. Over the 15 plus years, we're looking at 70 million.
Yeah, it was gonna require a significant increase
Yes.
in rates. And they never did give us a cost per water. Right now, we're at roughly $3.50.
They did provide a cost, which is the same calculation that Robert gave us on the monthly basis, which was about $4.50, $4.75.
Yeah, that,
per
well,
1,000 gallons. They did give us a cost.
no,
It
he
rounds
worked
up
on
to
that,
that
and we kind of looked
monthly
at it.
amount. So,
150,000 a month,
correct.
31 million in fiscal year.
No,
So that's financing through 7C.
Yes.
So, well, you're a little confused, your workshop, I'm in favor of that, so we can kind of get on that board, we can walk through all that, but what you're basically talking about right now is we have $20 million that we could use towards this cause.
Well, as a match, yeah, and part of this cost will be the microfiltration part that we need to,
Okay, I got that.
yeah.
I was in the workshop where we just focused and talked on this. Yeah. I'm confused now.
Are you guys aware of all the costs that 7Cs provided to us?
No, I think you guys need to break it down for us, because is what you're proposing that we build our own plant and run it ourselves?
That's correct.
Desal?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'd love to see a cost of it, what you guys think that would cost, and then add 25% at least, and then what it would cost if we went with that. We gotta look at that.
Right.
Response.
So we feel confident we can build a desalination plant?
Yes.
Yes. Charles is
We
saying
have-
yes.
Well, Charles, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's, I think we have the operations, the technical to have a seawater process. Basically, we'd be shifting from our low pressure membranes we operate today to high pressure membranes at the tail end. And I mean, we have the ability to build staffing using our current resources as a district.
And you think that would be cheaper than paying a corporation to come in and do it for us?
By far.
Cheaper.
Yeah,
Yes, because a lot of those costs in that public-private partnership, we would maintain as our current revenue stream of the 450,000, and it would just continue with the seawater process in place.
so we don't have the efficiency, however.
Do we know anyone else has done this?
That one
We'll
with
be the
7
first
Cs
in the
out.
state and the third in the country.
I mean, running our
We
own.
feel confident we can do it.
Yeah, I mean, running our own. Do we know
Yes, we
anybody else?
can. I mean, we've been studying this for years. As a matter of fact, Moe Cantu has been leading the desalination training, and that's where he's at today. Training and he's got 3 water plant operators that are training also.
I mean,
They've
well,
been training for a few years on that part, the desalination, and it'll get to the point where they're gonna have knowledge of running that, and that's.
yeah, and we're gonna always maintain technical support contracts. So the manufacturers and suppliers, they're always gonna be monitoring online. They're always gonna be a phone call away. They can do the programming changes we need. So they're gonna be on staff with an annual maintenance contract.
Right.
Even
One of the things,
the selected vendor. Like in our case, it's Paul Corporation. We're gonna have that technical support as an operator to reach out.
We do have it for water plant number 2.
Right.
Paul Systems is what we're using there. One of the
Well,
other things
yeah,
is,
whoever gets selected, not necessarily.
Norris Lia's office is in Harlingen, so they're just here and there.
Okay,
We don't have
so,
to-
Yeah, it's definitely.
We just need a workshop so they
yeah,
can.
here's where I'm at, workshop. And in that workshop, I'd like a comprehensive breakdown of
Exactly.
desalinization provided by a corporation like Seven Seas, or whatever they're called. And compare that to us on it now. What does this look like? What are the pros and cons of that financially, administratively, delivery? Like, what's our lead time look like, right? Like,
Exactly.
and then the other thing I want to know is how are we going to service our clients now as we bridge that gap, right? Because we were going to get the water treatment plant one up for a reason to get some,
Correct. And
service that was, in my opinion, potentially needed, right? So let's look at the now and then obviously as we plan for the desalinization, I think we're all in favor of how we're getting there financially and creatively is I think something we discussed, but then also this money that's available, I mean, that's attractive, yeah, we can use $20 million.
Well, we wanna,
We're hoping not.
move that way yet.
Well, we want to use
I don't think
surplus.
When would we know?
By June, they mentioned June, so.
I want to look at all that. I want to poke holes in everything you just
Everything.
presented to present to us today. The August, like that whole, we already did.
Corps
it.
of Engineers.
Thank
doing
you,
that
Corps of
study.
Engineers, you're talking to Will, it just came about, now we gotta wait till August for them, and I thought we'd already done, intake, feasibility study, and we'd already established where the intake would be. Now the Corps of Engineers tell us we gotta wait till August, great, I just wanna unpack all that.
Yes.
And then the
Right.
June date, and then all these hypotheticals, politicians, you know when they're lying, when they're talking, right? So they all have great ideas. And I'm in, like, yeah, let's do grant matches, and let's all dream big, and Santa's coming on the 25th. What happens if he doesn't, right? So I wanna talk about all of them. I wanna have a plan A, B, and C. And then in the meantime, how are we gonna continue to deliver water if the lake dries up and not, like, we need to account for all of it.
Right.
And it ain't gonna happen right now. It ain't gonna happen with a two-pager, although this is nice.
Right.
I wanna get on the dry erase board to figure this stuff out. And then at the end of the day, I don't know about you guys are the ones here every day. At the end of the day, I'm gonna trust whatever our opinion is as a district.
Right.
But as a
Right.
customer, and then someone was elected, we kind of have this responsibility, I'd like to be a little bit more intimately involved in details.
All right, and Jason, one important point is the fact that we do have a contract where we plan to advertise this Sunday, and with that project, we're basically doing a portion of the plan ourselves versus Seven Seas that is an option. They would want to do the entire plant from scratch on their own, but we're already building major components of it. And so for example, today our balance, we have an open purchase order with Paul Corporation we approved in January. So encumbered funds, basically the unencumbered bond money right now, we're at 16.4 million. Once we do this general contract with our current bonds, we anticipate having about 5.9 million of unassigned monies. And we know from this seawater study, if we get that cooperative agreement, we're going to need to come up with 500,000. And with that discussion for desal, we can assign that 500,000 to come off of the surplus money and use that to get the feasibility stage of seawater completed. While we have our critical microfiltration that we need as a backup for water plant 2 already under construction. So
You said that we're doing part of that, so Seven Seas, we were already back to do that part of that.
yes, we're doing that with our existing.
Is there a possibility that if we had that, we have to Seven Seas?
Well, it would be on are they willing to operate our plant? Because
Well, that's what I'm saying, that's another question.
and I guess that was where I was getting into collaborative project delivery, is how we want to deliver the project. Because there's, the traditional design bid build, where we don't have any idea.
If they wanted it, they would work with us. You know what I'm saying, they didn't cost what they gave us on water, we put it down, because we already gave part of the deal, so if they wanted to do it.
Who we're talking to, without having to go
So
to
you're
Seven
gonna,
Seas.
we're bringing in Norris Liao
Yes,
for workshop.
yes, sir.
Exactly, that's what I want,
Because
and
we
all
quite
the
frankly
questions.
need a consultant to be able to be in a workshop and answer these questions.
Right.
Yes,
And we're talking now about 2 water plants instead of having that third.
Yeah, that second one is one plant. The desal with the microfiltration.
yeah, I think,
A plant that we already have in existence.
Oh, no, no,
Building
no.
another
well,
We're going to build it.
calling water plant 1, 2 plants has always been a misnomer. It's the same plant that's going from a microfiltration on surface water to changing your source to add the seawater element to it. But it's gonna still be the same plant.
So you're kind of
Microfiltration
clarifying.
that's gonna be built, it's gonna start soon as we get that, advertisement done, and there'll be bids for the contractor to come in and build it.
But
And then- Okay, so that will hold us to, at least fix the other plant while the RO system is getting, capitalized and done or completed with you guys knowing all the pros and cons for it. At the workshop, we're gonna find out all those questions that you had, and, we'll get it done, and if we move forward, we move forward. If we don't, we don't. We still have 7 Cs available to move forward with.
I'm not married to 7C, so
But,
just so we're all clear at the beginning of this,
So-
we just bring them up because they were the last presenter that represented these conversations to us.
right, and I did tell, Doctor, that was the first workshop that we were gonna have, so there's other ones coming up.
Yeah, I mean, the
I'm
most,
hoping
oh, excuse me.
that, they come in and give us the information that we need, and then if not, IDE did a presentation, they need to come back if anything else, and, complete that presentation, that
But
they didn't finish. I'm
Mark
waiting for
Ellison
information.
from IDE was at that water conference that we went to, and when we were talking to Norris Leal, Mark Ellison.
We're talking
came up
to the chairman.
to the chairman.
Well, I think,
Yeah, Norris Leal was there when he patted him on the back and said, "This is the man that can build you that plant."
yeah, and so, we gotta understand everybody's agenda.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what gets important is getting into a collaborative project delivery, which is kind of where you bring a contractor in early before design is final. And so really, construction manager at risk would be an alternate way to get things done faster, not cheaper. But you would basically get a contractor on board at a 30% design, but you would still have that initial engineer, say a Norris Leal, to get you to that first 30%. And then we negotiate a guaranteed maximum price with the contractor at that 30% level. So that's another way to get things done, which is more of a standard, project delivery method, even though we're getting away from design build. But if we look at a public-private partnership, that gets to another level of extreme that we don't need to consider just because we have strong operations. We have the ability to do major components, within our existing structure.
That's true, and so let's explore that at a workshop. I'm in favor. I will say that the one thing that worries me is our employee costs have skyrocketed in the last 3 years, and that's not sustainable and wouldn't be sustainable. You'd have to convince me that employee costs are going to plateau and not be able to keep going up at that rate. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to just bring in 7Cs, right? That would make a lot more sense to bring those guys in, because I know what their cost is, it's stable. Whereas if we're going up, at some point, I'm worried we're gonna cross their cost, and now we're operating up here, and it's like, man, we should have just gone with those guys.
And I mean, that just comes down to tightening the rates of increases on salaries, correct? I mean,
I wish it was simple, but you recall sitting in that meeting and how difficult it is to come up with, when every manager is there and the entire room is full of every employee, and somebody's like, well, we just won't pay you guys as much, right? Like, that doesn't usually go very well. So we have to be serious about how we think about that and how many, our operational efficiency will be key to, can we do this or not? You guys are gonna have to budget out financially, hey, this is what employee costs look like to make this work. Not just like, yeah, we can do it, and then like 5 years later, like, yeah, we're doing it, but it's gonna be more expensive than 7Cs.
As far as employee costs on the one plant, Doctor, we have talked to Noe. I have talked to him quite a few times. Right now, the staff that he has is for both water plants. And I asked him about the new plant, once it's built, he says he may need one more employee if they go into a 24/7 operation. But other than that, that's the cost of the employee, what do we got right now?
Let's workshop it and sort it out, and just know that that's gotta be part of your consideration, because that's our biggest cost. So we have to make, remember, their cost is fixed, whereas ours is more variable, so you have to get it to as fixed as possible. Look into IDE,
To that point, workshop I'd like to happen soon, and I'd like there to be an element of it where it's just us. Like, I'm all about workshops, but when we allow someone that's got an agenda in the room, and it really just becomes their agenda workshop. So I'd like to sit in the room with you guys. I'd like to drill you about the money that we plan on spending, that we've already facilitated, where we're going with it, answer these questions, what our vision is, and then we invite those people. All right, now we're all on the same page. What can you do to help our situation? Instead of it just being a freaking mind-numbing slideshow, and all right, we can offer this to you for a number that you can't afford, and I'm going to waste an hour and a half of your time, and then your next board meeting, you already talked about the next guy. Does this make sense? So let's plan a workshop. And I don't know about, like, I realize we're ready to start spending money. And I'm all good with that. The engineering design and the microfiltration upset fleet ready for advertising construction, which means we're ready to start writing checks, is what that says to me. Is this something we want to do, or do we want to meet first? Is this something we're all in agreement about writing these checks right now? Or is this something that we need to have a workshop in a family meeting before we start writing checks?
One of the recommendations that we're gonna provide is, that we move forward, and, this is bond money that's gonna be spent on the microfiltration that
Gonna need
still
it.
need it.
We're gonna need it regardless, is what I heard.
Regardless,
And
yeah.
that's unanimous, right?
Yes, sir.
We're all on the same page there.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
We are.
I don't need to hear any more reports. We're good. Let's move on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Unless you guys have that.
Well, no, when are we gonna pitch the meeting for? We talked about that in time, you guys can do the workshop,
I'm seeing next Wednesday, but I can meet Tuesday.
I'll be in Vegas. Well, I'll be, Tuesday, I
you
can,
guys are fancy.
Monday, Tuesday,
Tuesday's good.
tomorrow, Friday.
What, do we have to post notice or?
Yeah. If you have a form.
Let's do it the last week of March, or the first, or before our next meeting. When is our next meeting?
22nd. Nope.
I won't be here that day.
Oh, here we go.
In Vegas.
We still have time, because all the funding and everything that's out there for us till June,
Yeah, but
and we'll be,
I'd like to have a little follow-up.
What's the next
And if it's on the heels of another meeting, I don't know if we're providing, I don't like having a hard stop. Like, honestly, I'm of the opinion that if we come in on a Tuesday and have a meeting, that you go until I'm at. It's not like, oh, it's 5:30, we gotta hit the
Right,
gavel and move
there you
on.
go. And,
Great, I agree. We could do it you're out of town 15th?
Me, yes, sir.
We could do it
But I'm
the
here the
14th.
14th.
We could do it the 14th, or if you're not gonna be ready by then.
13th? Here's the 13th.
Don't have time.
They won't have time until Monday. Right?
It has to be posted 72 hours before.
Are we there? Does that have to be business hours or?
72,
Business hours. Business hours.
72 hours.
That rolls. 20th, 22nd, 23rd.
Okay, well, how about the last week then? 27, 28, 29?
That's better for us, because we have time to prepare for that.
Yeah, it's hard for them to understand.
Monday 27, Tuesday 28,
Let's do it on Tuesdays better,
Tuesday 28.
or Wednesday. You guys like Wednesday more?
Wednesday, March.
Wednesday's good.
Wednesday the 29th.
We're okay with any day that you
Okay.
guys prefer, for the reason that we're gonna be here till 5, so whatever
Say
time
again.
you all, 5 to 7, 5
5
till
till
you
we're
guys
done.
are satisfied?
Yeah, 29th.
So we can't come before your work day is over, that's the rule?
Yeah, you can, no. Anytime
want
you
to come
guys,
earlier, or you want to do it
I can come earlier. That's fine. You guys want to do it at 4?
Do it 4?
4?
Yeah, I'm not trying to pull Lionel Richie here, but I'd like to get to work with it, you know what I'm saying? Lionel Richie's written songs like all night long. So we're at 4 o'clock on the 29th, which is Wednesday. And I'm,
29th, 4 o'clock, March 29th at 4 o'clock.
Okay,
we start at 4 p.m.
4 p.m. and
We're
we'll
gonna call
say
this,
it'll end in 3 hours, even though it could end earlier. So you guys are satisfied with all the questions and answers?
5:30 pizza, right?
We call it water plant one.
Now, is Bill Norris going to be attending this workshop? or is
and
it-
I'm happy with him attending the workshop, absolutely. I just don't want him hijacked. I don't want to be in a hostage situation.
You can bring
No.
them later.
We can bring them after we meet.
He's more a consultant too. We may want to hear a person dismiss him.
Yeah,
I
that'll
agree
work
with
better
that.
for my time. Let's do that. Let's have him start us off and then see you later.
You can ask them to leave, but it's a public meeting.
Yeah, we can ask him to leave.
We won't, so threaten him to leave.
No,
But I mean,
no.
it could be filled with the public.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I just don't want to be held hostage for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Someone else's agenda.
Tell him he has like a 15-minute maximum presentation. 20
Okay.
minutes, like we just don't want an hour long. I don't need to see slides of water, is basically,
No.
I know what water looks like. I don't want to see dumb stuff.
You guys know.
I don't need to be convinced that we need to do this and all how bad this, just give me the cost and give me the real deal stuff. So tell him the
That goes a
board,
long way, but if he does not come in here and tell me why we need to sound it, we want you here for a reason. Money. Yeah. Lead time. This is what it looks like. This is how much money that you have that we could use. Like creative thinking like that. These are facilities you're creating that we are going to be able to use. You're not wasting money making what you're making right now. Those are things we like to hear. And reassure the public that we're being good stewards with the money they've approved and the money we're potentially getting ready to spend.
is 7 an action item? Consider and discuss?
No,
This is
we're
part
not.
we discussed.
We're done.
Well,
We're
in
done.
that case, I move on to, item number 8, district engineer's report.
Thank you.
Make it quick, Charles.
Yeah, but
Lost your audience.
Make sure you, speak loud too.
Right.
I'm hard hearing.
yes, I'm trying to pace myself.
Get going.
Well, I mean, the first one was collaborative project delivery, which I think we've touched on it already. I do recommend keeping this in a traditional design, bid, build type setup. But if it's in our best interest to look at alternative deliveries, construction manager at risk is an option that we can do. But it starts with procuring the engineer, and then you get a contractor on board at 30%. So that's basically, I think where the public-private partnerships go too extreme, we don't need to take it that far. So that's pretty much the intent of this first, item from the collaborative project delivery part.
You're talking about desal the whole way through?
Yes.
So, I do not throw out that public-private partnership if it can be shown that there's a fixed cost for a long period of time. That's what they do. So I put the burden on you guys to show us that it's better to do it in-house. All right, I don't privilege in-house over the other way. So feel like you guys have to prove to us why we shouldn't go with somebody that their only job is providing desalinated water. Instead, I'm gonna have guys who have never delivered desalinated water do it, right?
Oh, well, we can still have that person who, that's all they do, but it's through a CMAR delivery using our components we've already have going.
Then convince me on why that we should
That's
do
why
that.
I go back to the
Yeah.
fact that they go over the cost because we've already done this. It's hard to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that would be like, when we do the RFQs, bring on the engineer, get a contractor on board at 30%. That'll be a second round of RFQ. And at 30%, you can already start requesting price. So,
I mean, you realize how they work, right? The private guys are coming in and saying, we can do this better and cheaper than you, and that's why we're willing to do it, because we're gonna make a profit, right? So basically, if we can match their same efficiency, then we don't need to give them their profit cut, right?
well, we're a nonprofit, so that cuts the 20% out right there.
That's what I mean. So, but if they're able to say, yeah, you'll save the 20% of profit, but you're gonna end up costing yourselves 40% more, because those guys don't know what the heck they're doing.
They're not maintaining, those are the
Yeah.
pictures.
I mean, that's what
Mhm.
No, I'm not into a bond issue.
Yeah, no, I think we have a lot of
I don't think we
surplus.
have.
What's important is the fact that we do have that drinking water state revolving fund request and it's contingent on us doing what we said we were gonna do. And so if we put any kind of brakes on this microfiltration, it puts the drinking water at 50 million at risk as well. So we want to make sure it's all going the way it needs to go.
Hey, you guys are smart guys, you're all for it. I know, remember those pictures they showed of the guys in the Caribbean who were gonna do their desal, right? And they had the stake poked into the side. I wanna make sure that we don't become, you know, the Caribbean of South Texas. So we're gonna do it right.
That's exactly it.
Definitely.
Right? That's
And
because I know dentists who are like, oh yeah, sure, I can do braces, and then, you know, they're pulling the kid's teeth out because it messed it up, right? We're not gonna.
Right, no, and we've proven this since the MF building with 2015. I mean, we've really, you know, handed that to our operators. They've been keeping that fantastic.
But I don't want Miss
So-
Johnson calling me and being like, why is my water so salty? Right, like,
You know,
we don't wanna be those guys. I already hear enough about it, so, and I tell them we have superior water, all of it. Not taste. So,
right. And so I guess I can kind of just jump quick over the status of the water system improvements. I think as you're aware, we're ready to advertise the microfiltration for general contractor this Sunday. We already have Paul working on their first submittals that are going to be coming in March 30th. And then one of our comments we want to do on that submittal is make sure their equipment is prepared for a seawater aspect. And so if that seawater causes any kind of impacts to their pricing, we'll consider at that stage in April and address it in that manner. I guess one of the other parts on the scope of work, just jump down to SC7 with Friesen Nichols, where they did have a design consideration for future integration of an alternative water supply at Water Plant 1, including seawater desalination and reuse. So we've already talked a lot about the seawater desalination. We'd have to modify the plant we're building. If we're going to do the reuse aspect, our plant can just go unchanged, and we have the reuse all being done before it ever goes to the reservoir. And I mean, one big point about when we get into reclamation funding, the reuse study was approved from the feasibility standpoint. We're barely trying to get a feasibility approval with seawater, but the way it's approved is building that reuse facility in Laguna Vista, which is not what we want to do. We want to build it here in Port Isabel. And one of the drawbacks was the fact that Port Isabel plant alone is too small. And so really, you know, one of the things we can look at from the reuse side of it is consolidating Isla Blanca with Port Isabel. Pretty much look at Isla Blanca, close that plant, pipe it all the way over to Port Isabel, and have it all in advanced water treatment. And if we look at reuse in that aspect, first of all, we can get rid of a nasty sewer plant on the island, send all that water, and turn around and add it to our process here at Port Isabel, and then turn around, recycle that, and head back into the reservoir. And then it's already, we're going to have all these extra credits for the pathogen removal with this microfiltration we're building. So it'll reduce how much we have to build on the sewer end because we're already building it on the water end. So pretty much, you know, that's the reuse side that I think we should still keep running parallel to the seawater and seeing which one gives us the most bang for our buck. That's kind of where sort of the other aspect of this is sitting when we dive into the reuse side. And that can be maybe if we want to address that on the workshop.
Yeah.
And we can kind of give that side of it as well.
Bring up the reaction.
Yeah.
See, that's a fight, chance.
Yeah.
to
So
me, reuse is something to do with desalination. My concern is you can't reuse water you can't get in the first place.
Yep. Yeah. So definitely the reuse has its limits, but we're also, you know, we're starting with lower salt content but limited flow. So, you know, which one do you pick first? So that's kind of.
I pick the desal. Tell you that right now. Not a hard choice.
Right.
Anyways, convince me otherwise if you think otherwise.
Yeah, it's just a cost standpoint. I mean, it's a matter of, you know, the reuse is going to be you know, whole magnitude cheaper than the seawater desal. So you use it until you've maxed out what you can get from it, and then you step it up to the seawater.
Yeah.
It's just cost control.
Convince us in that workshop.
All right, so I mean, that kind of sort of rolls through Water Plant 1 in a nutshell. The raw water transfer pump station and Water Plant 2 high service, that's at a 60% design in our court for review. And then also that analysis shows we needed both of those pipelines to get the surface water to Port Isabel. So that old option of sending effluent to Laguna Vista, it's not even available anymore because we need both pipelines for our current plans. So that's part of why we need to amend our old approved reclamation study from the reuse side of it. And then just the other issue is jumping over water valve replacements, distribution improvements. That's a Cornet's contract. And we did have owner's allowance in that contract, but we've maxed it out and we still got more that we need to do. So there's going to be a change order request coming. We still need to quantify the actual dollar amount, just so we can finish out this distribution valve installation that's ongoing with Cornet. But that's kind of the update in a nutshell on distribution. Not to mention, the additional projects. If we do end up with a surplus on the range of 6 million, I was really eyeing that for distribution. But if it goes to seawater, because that's our priority, that's just what happens. So that's basically where that stands. And then again, last but not least, the drinking water state revolving fund for the 15 million. It was declared administratively complete on February 3rd. It's going through technical review, and we just got a call from Gil at Texas Rural Water Association, and he's scheduled his site assessment to do his financial managerial technical assessment for Tuesday, March 14th. So he's going to come over here and review make sure we're up to snuff to be given the money. So that's basically scheduled for March 14th. And that concludes the engineer's report. All right.
No action items.
No action.
Great. Item 9, consider discuss for possible approval of project changes for unlimited tax funds, Series 2022.
Right. And again, this rolls right into what Robert Gomez was talking about with what can we do with our funds. And since we did, when it was the time of the election, we did always say from the beginning about having this for these improvements for future water reuse or seawater planning. That means we really don't have any formal project changes to request. It's already in the approval. So there's no action to take at this point.
On board with that, Carlos?
Yes, sir.
10 is this is the
10, consider and discuss for possible approval a resolution agreeing to certain requirements of a water smart application desalinization plan for Port Isabel seawater.
all right. So that there is a resolution that is optional, but it is recommended to be included in this application. And it's basically requesting a 50-50 cost share for the seawater feasibility component of what we're trying to do at Water Plant 1. And so we do have a budget on here approaching 1 million, which is the max for that tier 1 funding request that we're pursuing. And so if this cooperative agreement does come to fruition, we'd enter into the agreement September 30th. It would apply to next fiscal year. And we'd have to find a way to match, 500,000 more or less, half 490,000. Well, yeah, 490,000, 496,750. We'd have to come up with a local fund for that match, but it turns out we're able to use our bond money to cover that. So that's pretty much the recommendation for the funding source if we're able to do this feasibility study next fiscal year.
This is an action item.
Yes.
Second, Mr. Starkey, second by Mr. Bowder. All in favor? Aye. Aye, motion carries. Item 11, Director of Finance report.
Thanks, Joe. Good job.
Put you on a timer. Ready? Go.
So just want to begin with a investment update. In November, we have 3 CDs that came up for maturity. We did a solicitation. We also added 1.7 million of tax deposits that we had already collected up to that point. The 3 CDs, we did a solicitation for 12 months. The 1.7 million in tax we did for 3 months because our payment is due March 1st. So we were only earning on those tax deposits 0.4% at IBC. So what we got back was 462 for those 12-month CDs. It was the general fund for 301,000, the revenue bond reserve for 260,000, the universal tax reserve for 520,000, and that tax money was our debt service So that's the money that we tax to pay our debt payments for the year. So on that one, it was 3 months. It came back at 432. So those are all good numbers. East West Bank is the one that came back as the winning bank for those. And then in February, that 1.7 came back, matured in February. We took that out and made the payments March 1st. And let's see, we did the solicitation for a 12-month CD for a different CD that matured in February. That's a 2019 Texas Water Development Board Revenue Bond. That was $456,000. And the rate, again, came back from East West Bank for 509 was what we got. And that was it. And we also moved a little bit of money from IBC to Veritex Bank. We have a money market. They've been offering us good rates on money markets. So we moved the money there where IBC was making 0.4 and at Veritex Bank we're making 458. So we moved 725,000 to Veritex Bank. And that's it. That's my investment update.
Were you able to buy treasury bills?
Yes, we do. When we do these solicitations, we're now comparing the CD rates against securities and treasuries. And if the securities come out higher, we'll go with the securities or the treasuries, whatever the best price is. The advantage in this case, it was very close, but the bank compounds it, so it comes out a little bit better on the annual basis than the rate that we were getting in the security. So that's what we did. So thank you. Moving on to the public assistance grant. So there was a lot of money that the federal government gave out for COVID money. We were not eligible for a lot of them because they were limited specifically to cities and counties, and special districts like us were not eligible. But there was one that we were eligible for, which was through the FEMA Public Assistance Grant. We applied for that one. That one is a reimbursement grant, so we submitted all the costs that we could that we thought were eligible. A total of 45,000. They approved 29,000 for the and so this is money that was for disinfectants, dispensers, hand sanitizers, wipes, face masks, temporary barriers, thermometers, diagnostic testing, professional disinfecting services. So those were the types of things that were approved of the 29,000. You know, that's still to be determined. Yeah, that's still to be determined. The things that they didn't approve were things like the remodeling that we did at the customer service, and things like some computer software and things that allowed our employees to work from home temporarily, things like that. They denied all that stuff, laptops that we purchased so people could work from home. They said, no, that's not eligible. But, so we did receive an award letter for the 28,989 was the total. We haven't received the money yet, but now that we have the award letter, I wanted to let you all know about it.
I want to thank Eddie because he's been doing a great job at the finances and investing and everything that goes with it. Doing a great job, Eddie. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Consider and discuss for possible approval monthly financial reports for November 22 and December.
So now that the audit is over, I'm catching up with these monthly reports. So I'm presenting 2 months, November and December, together.
Just before, when did our rate increase go into effect?
It went into effect November 20, yes, November 2022.
22. So our revenue was down even with our rates higher?
Yes, that's right. The consumption is low right now. I was looking at the last few years, and 2019 was high. 2020 was low. 2021 low. It's just been going down. Consumption has been going down. Part of that is the vast majority of that is our water restrictions that we have right now, is what we attribute that to.
Plus, our metering system is better. Taking
Yes.
care of the water
People have less
needs.
money to spend on water in their yards too.
Yes.
Right down things back.
Yes. Yes. In 18 was the high point, and that's when we installed our new metering system. It gave the customers tools to be able to monitor their water use that they never had before. Before, if you got a high water bill, you would know when you got the bill, and you had no way of knowing what was going on before that. Now, with these new tools, the smart meters, you're able to monitor your water use. You can set alerts and notify you if there's something that's going on.
All the good stuff.
Yes,
Awesome.
and
We
all
need
that.
to accept this report.
Yes, yes,
Good.
they're approved.
Move that we approve.
Motion made by Mr. Bowder, second by Mr. Starkey. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Item 13, consider and discuss for possible approval of renewal of the investment advisor agreement with Valley View Consulting.
So Valley View Consulting is the firm that helps us with our investment decisions. They also help with things like the banking solicitation that we just did. Mr. Tim Pinion, that was here for the last meeting, helped with that bank solicitation, interpreting all these complex contracts, and they helped me make the good decisions on investments. So they've been doing a good job. They've been with the district for many years, and I recommend that we renew with the agreement.
Motion made by Mr. Donahue, second by Mr. Starkey. All in favor? Motion carries. Item 14, consider and discuss possible approval of the multi-tank trailer for the maintenance department.
30 grand or less, you got it. It's now money.
So this item we budgeted for this fiscal year. We need to replace our diesel tank trailer. It's beyond repair. It doesn't meet any state or federal DOT regulations. So
Got a motion? Approved. Motion approved by Mr. Donahue.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bowder. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
There's a time when my wife said I would be on repair.
Consider and review expenditures for February 15th,
Questions,
2023 to
comments?
February 28th.
They acknowledge.
Acknowledgement.
Acknowledged by Mr. Starkey. Acknowledged by Mr. Bowder. Acknowledged by Mr. Donahue. Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.